What if the worst day of your life turned into the moment that changed everything? What if a single act of kindness to a stranger became the key to your salvation? Before we begin, leave your name and your city in the comments and write the word present. Let's see where everyone is watching from today.
Just checking over
Are
the
you ready
details
for this
now.
story? The manila envelope felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds in my hands. I stared at the return address. San Francisco Superior Court, Probate Division. My fingers trembled as I pulled out the document inside. Notice of probate hearing. Estate of Margaret Chen. My mother. The woman I'd spent the last 3 years caring for, feeding, bathing, medicating. The woman whose Alzheimer's had slowly stolen her memories, but never her gentle smile when she saw my face each morning. And now my brother Victor was trying to steal everything she'd left behind. I sat on the edge of my bed in the tiny studio apartment I'd moved into 6 months ago when the medical bills got too high to keep Mom's house running. The document stated clearly that Victor Chen was claiming 100% of our mother's estate based on a will supposedly signed 8 months ago. 8 months ago, when Mom couldn't even remember what day of the week it was. My phone buzzed. Victor's name flashed on the screen. I didn't answer.
I've finished the
He'd been
report,
calling
just
all
checking
week.
over the details
Each
now.
voicemail the same practiced sympathy with a knife hidden behind it. Maya, we both know Mom wanted me to handle her affairs. She told me herself. She was worried about you, about your financial situation. This is what's best for everyone. Don't make this ugly. I looked around my apartment, the futon that doubled as my bed and couch, the mini fridge humming in the corner, the stack of medical textbooks I hadn't opened since I quit my nursing job at County General 3 years ago to become Mom's full-time caregiver. I'd lost everything taking care of her. My career, my savings, the man I'd been dating who said he couldn't handle the stress of being with someone who had no time for him. My entire life had been put on hold. And Victor? Victor showed up twice. Once for Christmas 2 years ago, where he stayed for exactly 45 minutes. Once last spring, when he asked Mom to sign some insurance papers that I wasn't allowed to see. The hearing was tomorrow at 10 a.m. I had no lawyer.
I've finished the report,
The 3
just
attorneys
checking
I'd
over the
called all
details now.
quoted retainer fees starting at $5,000. I had $800 in my checking account. I stood up and walked to my bathroom, catching my reflection in the mirror above the sink. Dark circles under my eyes. Hair that needed cutting 3 months ago. The same scrubs I'd worn for 2 days because I'd been too exhausted to do laundry. Who are you, Maya? I whispered to my reflection. What happened to you? The woman who'd graduated top of her nursing class. The woman who'd saved a man's life in the ER during her first week on the job. The woman who believed in justice and fairness and doing the right thing. She was still here, buried under exhaustion and grief and fear, but still here. I had one advantage Victor didn't know about. I'd kept everything. Every receipt for groceries I'd bought for Mom. Every medical bill I'd paid. Every medication I'd picked up. Every adult diaper. Every bottle of shampoo. Every single dollar I'd spent caring for her over 3 years.
I've
It
finished the
added up to
report, just checking over the details now.
$347.29. I'd also kept the original will, the one Mom and Dad had made together 15 years ago, before Dad passed away. The one that split everything 50-50 between Victor and me. The one with their signatures notarized by their attorney, Thomas Brennan, who'd since retired but whose contact information I still had. I spent the rest of the evening organizing my evidence into a 3-ring binder, medical records showing Mom's cognitive decline timeline, notes from her doctor about her mental capacity, photographs of me with her at her various appointments, each one dated and time-stamped on my phone. At midnight, I finally crawled into bed, but sleep wouldn't come. I kept running through what I'd say to the judge, how I'd present my case, how I'd face Victor's lawyer, whoever that might be. Around 2 a.m., my neighbor's dog started barking, and I gave up on sleep entirely. I made coffee and sat by my window,
I've finished the
watching
report,
the city lights
just checking
blur
over the
through my
details
tears.
now.
Tomorrow would determine everything. Whether I'd have enough money to restart my life, whether justice would prevail, whether all those years of sacrifice meant anything at all. The next morning arrived with the kind of gray, cold drizzle that San Francisco does best. I put on the only professional outfit I still owned, a navy blazer and black pants I'd bought for job interviews that never happened because I'd never had time to actually go on interviews. I couldn't afford a taxi or an Uber. My car had died 4 months ago, and I'd sold it for parts to pay for Mom's last hospital stay. The bus would have to do. The 38 Geary was packed when I boarded at 8:30 a.m. I clutched my binder and a manila folder with all my documents, wedging myself into a spot near the back door. The bus lurched forward, and I grabbed a pole to steady myself. We made it 3 stops before an elderly Asian woman got on, struggling with 2 canvas grocery bags that seemed to weigh more than she did.
I've finished the
She looked to be in her
report,
70s,
just checking over the
dressed in a
details
simple
now.
gray coat and sensible shoes, her silver hair pulled back in a neat bun. She stood near the front, swaying with each movement of the bus, her bags bumping against other passengers. I looked at the priority seating section. Every seat was full. 2 teenagers sat there, both staring at their phones. A man in a business suit pretended to be asleep. I felt something in my chest crack open. This woman could be my mother, was probably someone's mother. I pushed my way through the crowded bus. "Ma'am, please, take my spot. I can hold those for you." She looked up at me with kind, tired eyes. "Oh, no, dear. You look like you're going somewhere important." She nodded at my binder. "It's okay, really." I took her bags and guided her to the pole I'd been holding. She grabbed it gratefully, and I stood next to her, her bags balanced on my hip, my binder tucked under my other arm. "Thank you, sweetheart. Young people these days."
I've finished the
She
report,
glanced at the
just checking
teenagers,
over the details
who were now
now.
both laughing at something on a screen. "Most of them don't notice us old folks anymore." "I notice," I said quietly. "My mom, she had Alzheimer's. She passed away 3 months ago." The woman's expression softened with genuine sympathy. "I'm so sorry, dear. That's a hard road to walk." It was, but I wouldn't trade those years for anything, even the hardest days. We rode in comfortable silence for a few stops. Then she asked, "Where are you headed? The courthouse?" I looked down at my folders, surprised. "How did you know?" She smiled. "I've been around long enough to recognize that look. Papers, nice clothes you don't usually wear. That expression that says you're carrying the weight of the world. Am I right?" I found myself smiling despite my anxiety. "You are..." "Probate hearing. My brother is trying to claim our mother's entire estate." Her eyebrows rose. "The one you cared for?" "Yes. And he wants it all?" "Every penny."
I've finished
She
the
shook her
report,
head
just
slowly.
checking over the details
Some
now.
children forget what matters. "I'm sorry you're dealing with that, especially so soon after losing her." The bus pulled up to a stop near the Civic Center. I checked the time, 9:15. Plenty of time to walk the 3 blocks to the courthouse. "This is my stop," I told her. "Mine too," she said. "I was heading downtown anyway. These old bones don't do well with bus transfers. Would you mind terribly if I walked with you? The routes always confuse me." Something in her voice made me pause. A loneliness that felt familiar. Of course, I'd be glad for the company. We got off together, and I handed her back her bags. She looped one over each arm, and we started walking. The drizzle had turned to light rain, and I pulled up my hood. "What's your name, dear?" she asked. "Maya. Maya Chen. Dorothy. Dorothy Park. It's lovely to meet you, Maya, even under such difficult circumstances." We walked slowly,
I've finished the
matching her
report,
pace.
just checking over
She
the
asked
details
me about
now.
my mother, and I found myself telling her everything. The diagnosis, the decline, the hard choices about medications and care facilities that I'd refused to use because I'd promised Mom she'd never be in a home, the mounting bills, the career I'd sacrificed. Dorothy listened with the kind of attention that made me feel truly heard for the first time in months. When I finished, we were standing in front of the courthouse steps. "You did a beautiful thing," Dorothy said softly. "Never doubt that. Whatever happens in there today, you honored your mother. That matters more than money." "Try telling that to my landlord," I said, attempting a joke that came out more bitter than I intended. "May I come in with you?" Dorothy asked suddenly. "I find courthouses fascinating, and you might want someone in your corner, even if it's just a friendly face." I looked at this woman I'd just met, this stranger who'd listened to my entire story without judgment. Something in her eyes told me she understood what I was facing
I've finished
in
the
ways
report,
I couldn't
just
explain.
checking over the details
I'd like
now.
that, I said. Thank you. We climbed the steps together and went through security. The probate courtroom was on the 3rd floor. We sat on a bench outside, waiting for the hearing to begin. At 9:45, Victor arrived. My brother looked exactly like I expected. Expensive suit, probably Armani, hair perfectly styled. That smile that charmed everyone but never reached his eyes. He was talking on his phone, laughing about something, until he saw me. The laugh died. He ended his call and walked over. Maya, you came. Of course I came. This is our mother's estate, Victor. Our mother wanted me to handle this. You know that. Our mother couldn't sign her own name 8 months ago. You know that. His jaw tightened. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. I'm prepared to offer you $50,000 to walk away right now. That's more than generous considering the debt she left behind. What debt? I paid
I've finished
everything.
the report, just
Did
checking
you?
over the details
He
now.
pulled out his phone and showed me a spreadsheet. Property taxes, utilities, insurance, medical bills. I paid all of this. That's where the debt comes from. I stared at the numbers. They were real bills, but I'd never seen them. When did you pay these? Over the last 6 months. While you were too busy playing nurse to handle the actual financial responsibilities. My hands shook. You never told me about any of this. I shouldn't have had to. Now, do we have a deal? 50,000, and you walk away? Before I could answer, a man in his 50s approached us. Perfectly tailored suit, leather briefcase, the kind of confident stride that cost $500 an hour. Victor, good to see you. They shook hands. Maya, this is Richard Reeves, my attorney. Reeves looked me up and down with barely concealed dismissal. Miss Chen, I understand you won't be represented today. I'll be representing myself.
I've finished the
He
report,
smiled.
just checking over
Not
the details
kindly.
now.
That's brave. Most people find probate law quite complex. Are you familiar with California Probate Code Section 6100? What about the requirements for establishing testamentary capacity? I wasn't. I'd read what I could online, but he was right. I was outmatched, and we both knew it. I have evidence, I said, holding up my binder. Evidence of what, exactly? That you spent money caring for your mother? That's admirable, Miss Chen. But it doesn't change what she wanted. And what she wanted, as clearly stated in her will, was for Victor to inherit everything. Dorothy had been sitting quietly on the bench, but now she stood up and walked over to me. She placed a gentle hand on my arm. This must be your brother, she said pleasantly. Victor looked at her the way people look at scenery. Present but unimportant. Yes. And you are? Just a friend. Maya helped me on the bus this morning.
I've finished the
Such
report,
a kind
just
young
checking
woman.
over the
You
details
must
now.
be very proud of her, sacrificing her career to care for your mother. Victor's expression flickered with something like annoyance. Our mother received excellent care. Now, if you'll excuse us, we're about to begin a private legal proceeding. Of course, Dorothy said, smiling. She patted my arm again and returned to the bench. At 10 a.m., the bailiff called us into the courtroom. Judge Patricia Morrison presided, a woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and no-nonsense demeanor. Victor, Reeves, and I took our seats at separate tables. Dorothy slipped into the gallery behind me. This is a hearing regarding the estate of Margaret Chen, deceased, Judge Morrison began. Mr. Victor Chen is petitioning for probate of a will dated March 15th, 2025. Miss Maya Chen is contesting this will. Mr. Reeves, please present your case. Reeves stood smoothly. Your Honor, this is a straightforward matter.
I've finished
Margaret
the report,
Chen,
just
of
checking
sound
over the
mind,
details now.
Executed this will in the presence of 2 witnesses and a notary public. The will clearly states that her son, Victor Chen, is to be the sole beneficiary of her estate. My client asks only that his mother's wishes be honored. He presented the will. I'd seen a copy. It looked legitimate. 2 witness signatures, a notary stamp, Mom's shaky signature at the bottom. Miss Chen, Judge Morrison said. Your response? I stood up, my legs feeling like water. Your Honor, my mother was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease in January 2022. By March 2025, she was in advanced stages. She couldn't remember my name most days. She couldn't dress herself. I don't believe she had the mental capacity to execute this will. Do you have evidence to support this claim? Yes, Your Honor. I opened my binder with shaking hands. Medical records from her neurologist, Dr. Patricia Sanders, documenting her
I've
cognitive
finished the report,
decline.
just checking over the
Assessment
details
scores
now.
from her last 3 appointments showing severe impairment. A letter from Dr. Sanders stating that by March 2025, my mother lacked the capacity to make complex legal decisions. I walked the documents to the bench. Judge Morrison reviewed them carefully. Mr. Reeves? He stood again, unruffled. Your Honor, my client is prepared to present testimony from the notary public who witnessed the will signing. She will testify that Mrs. Chen appeared lucid and understood what she was signing. We also have video footage from that day showing Mrs. Chen in good spirits and answering questions appropriately. My stomach dropped. Video footage? Reeves pulled out a tablet and played a clip. There was Mom, sitting in what looked like Victor's living room, smiling at the camera. Victor's voice off-screen. Mom, do you understand what you're signing today? Mom, yes. Papers for the house. Victor, and you want me to handle everything? Mom,
I've finished the report,
yes,
just
dear.
checking over the details
It was
now.
damning. She looked fine, sounded fine. No one who didn't know her would see the confusion behind her eyes, the way she was just agreeing with whatever was asked of her. Your Honor, I said desperately. People with Alzheimer's can have good days. They can seem lucid for short periods, but that doesn't mean they understand complex legal documents. My mother was agreeing with whatever my brother said because that's what she'd been conditioned to do. She trusted him. Miss Chen, do you have expert testimony to counter the notary's statement? Judge Morrison asked. No, Your Honor. I couldn't afford to hire an expert. Reeves pounced. Your Honor, my client also wishes to address Miss Chen's financial claims. She states she spent over $80,000 caring for Mrs. Chen. However, my client has documentation showing he paid the bulk of Mrs. Chen's expenses during the final year of her life. Property taxes, insurance, utilities, all paid by Victor Chen.
I've finished the report,
while
just
Miss
checking
Chen
over the
was
details
allegedly providing care. He presented his spreadsheet, along with bank statements showing transfers to various accounts. It all looked legitimate. Miss Chen, did you authorize your brother to pay these expenses? The judge asked. I didn't know about them, Your Honor. He never told me. Did you pay property taxes on your mother's home during the last year of her life? I felt the floor dropping out from under me. No, I thought. I assumed they were being paid from Mom's account. I was focused on her medical care. So, your brother stepped in to prevent the home from going into foreclosure due to unpaid taxes? I didn't know it was in foreclosure risk. Reeves smiled slightly. Your Honor, my client loves his sister. He understands she did her best. But the reality is that while Miss Chen was providing admirable personal care, she was neglecting the financial realities of their mother's situation. Victor Chen prevented disaster. He earned his mother's trust. That's why
I've
she
finished
left
the report,
everything to
just
him.
checking over the
I
details
wanted to
now.
scream. This was all wrong. Victor had never once called to tell me about taxes or insurance or anything else. He'd let me drown while he played the hero behind the scenes. Furthermore, Reeves continued, my client is prepared to offer Miss Chen a settlement of $50,000, which is more than fair considering the debts owed. We ask that Your Honor approve the will and close this matter. Judge Morrison looked at me. Miss Chen, do you have anything else to present? I looked down at my binder. My receipts for groceries and adult diapers and medications. My photos with Mom. My 3 years of sacrificed life. None of it mattered. Not in legal terms. Not against video evidence and tax payments and a will that looked legitimate. Your Honor, I started, my voice breaking. I gave up everything for my mother. My job, my savings, my future. I didn't do it for money. I did it because I loved her, because she gave me life, and I wanted to give her dignity
I've finished
in
the
death.
report, just
My
checking
brother
over the
visited
details
twice
now.
in 3 years. Twice. But he shows up with a will, and suddenly he's the devoted son? My eyes filled with tears. I'm not asking for all of it. I just want what's fair. I want what Mom actually wanted, which was for both of us to be taken care of. She made that will 15 years ago when she was healthy, when she and my dad sat down with their lawyer and decided together how to split things. That's the will that should matter. Do you have that will? Judge Morrison asked. Yes, Your Honor. I pulled it out with shaking hands. Dated June 2010, notarized by Thomas Brennan, their attorney at the time. It splits everything 50-50. I brought it to the bench. Judge Morrison examined it. Mr. Reeves, a later will supersedes an earlier one, assuming the testator had capacity. This appears to be properly executed. But, Your Honor, I pressed. Mom didn't have capacity in March 2025. I have medical evidence of that.
I've finished the
You
report,
have
just
evidence
checking
of
over the
cognitive
details now.
decline, the judge corrected. That's not the same as proving she lacked capacity at the specific moment she signed. The video evidence suggests she understood what she was doing. She was going to rule against me. I could see it in her eyes. I was going to lose everything. I sat down heavily, feeling defeated. That's when Dorothy stood up in the gallery. Your Honor, may I approach the bench? Judge Morrison looked surprised. Ma'am, this is a closed proceeding, unless you're involved in this case. I'd like to petition to serve as guardian ad litem for Margaret Chen's estate. The courtroom went silent. Reeves turned around, looking annoyed. Your Honor, that's highly irregular. This woman has no standing. I am Dorothy Park, she said clearly, walking forward with a confidence I hadn't seen on the bus. Judge Dorothy Park, retired, Northern District of California. I served for 32 years before stepping down last year. I now
I've
work
finished
as a
the
legal
report,
advocate
just
for
checking
elder
over the
abuse
details
cases
now.
with the San Francisco Elder Rights Alliance. Victor's face went white. Reeves stood up quickly. Your Honor, I don't understand what's happening. Judge Morrison looked at Dorothy with new interest. Judge Park, I know your work, but I'm confused about your connection to this case. Dorothy smiled. I met Maya Chen this morning on the 38 Geary bus. She gave me her seat and carried my groceries. We walked here together, and she told me her story. When I heard Mr. Chen and his attorney discussing this case outside the courtroom, I became concerned. I've spent the last hour sitting in this gallery listening to what sounds very much like financial exploitation of a vulnerable elder. She walked to the bench and presented her credentials, bar card, retired judge identification, credentials from the Elder Rights Alliance. Your Honor, I specialize in exactly these cases. Adult children who swoop in during a parent's decline, manipulate them into
I've finished
signing
the report,
documents,
just
and
checking
then
over the
claim it was
details
the
now.
parent's wish. I'd like permission to examine the evidence more carefully and question Mr. Victor Chen about his involvement in his mother's care. Judge Morrison looked at me, then at Victor, then at Dorothy. This is unusual, but given your expertise, Judge Park, I'll allow it. Mr. Reeves? He looked like he'd been hit by a truck. Your Honor, I object. This is clearly a setup. Miss Chen somehow knew Judge Park and arranged. I met her this morning, Dorothy said firmly. Ask the bus driver. Ask the security footage from this building. I've been sitting in the public gallery, which is my right as a citizen. I'm now petitioning to serve in an official capacity because I believe a vulnerable elder may have been exploited. Judge Morrison nodded. Petition granted. Judge Park, you may proceed. Dorothy turned to Victor. Mr. Chen, please take the stand. Victor looked at Reeves, who nodded reluctantly. My brother walked to the
finished the
witness
report,
stand like a
just
man
checking over
walking
the
to his
details now.
execution. State your name and occupation, Dorothy began. Victor Chen. I'm a real estate developer. How often did you visit your mother during the last 3 years of her life? I visited when I could. My business keeps me very busy. How many times, Mr. Chen? I don't have an exact count. Your sister testified that you visited twice. Is that accurate? His jaw clenched. I also called. Regularly. How regularly? Once a month. Sometimes more. Dorothy pulled out her phone. I took the liberty of subpoenaing your mother's phone records during the recess. These show exactly 14 calls from your number to hers over a 3-year period. That averages to less than once every 2 months. Does that sound right? Victor said nothing. When did you last visit your mother in person before she signed this will? I'm not sure of the exact date. Was it the same day she signed the will? Yes. So you
I've
visited
finished the
your mother
report,
for the first
just
time
checking
in
over the
months,
details now.
asked her to sign a legal document that left everything to you, and then left? I provided care in other ways. Financial care. The taxes, the insurance. When did you start paying those? Dorothy interrupted. About 6 months before she died. Why then? Because they were overdue. Maya wasn't handling them. Did you tell your sister they were overdue? She should have known. How should she have known if you never told her? Dorothy's voice was sharp now. Your sister was providing 24-hour care, bathing your mother, feeding her, managing her medications, changing her. The intimate, exhausting work of keeping a human being alive and comfortable. And you're suggesting she should have also been monitoring tax bills that you intentionally kept from her? I didn't keep them from her. Did you call her to discuss them? No. But did you email her? No. Did you visit to review the finances together? No. So you paid 6 months of bills,
I've finished
never
the
told your
report,
sister,
just checking over
and
the
then
details
used those
now.
payments as evidence that you were the responsible one. Is that accurate? Victor's face was red. I was trying to help. Where were you when your mother fell and broke her hip 2 years ago? He blinked. What? Your mother's medical records show a fall in January 2023. Broken hip. Emergency surgery. Where were you? I was traveling. For business. So your sister handled that alone? Yes. Where were you during your mother's last hospitalization? I came as soon as I heard. Your mother was hospitalized for 6 days before she passed. Phone records show your sister called you on day 1. When did you arrive? Victor was silent. Mr. Chen? Day 5. So your sister sat alone in that hospital room for 4 days, watching your mother die, and you couldn't be bothered to arrive until the day before she passed? I had obligations, but you had time to bring your mother to your house 8 months earlier to sign a will? You had
I've
time
finished
for
the
that?
report, just
Reeves
checking
stood
over
up.
the details now.
Your Honor, this is harassment. I'll allow it, Judge Morrison said quietly. She was watching Victor with new eyes. Dorothy turned back to my brother. Let's talk about that will signing. You said your mother was lucid and understood what she was signing. How long did the signing take? Maybe 15 minutes. Did you explain to her that she was leaving everything to you and nothing to her daughter? She knew. How did she know? Did you say the words, Maya will get nothing from this will? Not in those exact words. What words did you use? I told her I would handle everything, that she didn't need to worry. That's not the same thing, is it? Dorothy's voice was quiet now, deadly. You let your mother believe she was signing papers to help you help her. You didn't tell her she was disinheriting the daughter who'd sacrificed everything. That's not. Did your mother ever in your presence say the words, I don't want Maya to have any of my estate? Victor looked down. No. Did she ever
I've finished the
express
report,
anger at Maya?
just checking over the details now.
Disappointment? No. Did she ever indicate that she wanted to change the will she and your father made together 15 years ago? Not explicitly, but yes or no, Mr. Chen? No. Dorothy walked back to the bench and pulled out a document. Your Honor, I had my assistant pull the notary's records. The woman who notarized this will is named Susan Keller. She's notarized 47 documents for Mr. Chen over the past 2 years. She works in his office building. She's essentially his personal notary. She turned back to Victor. Did you pay Susan Keller to notarize this will? She charges a standard fee. How much was it? $50. Did you pay her anything else? No. Are you sure? Because Miss Keller's bank records show a deposit of $5,000 from your company 2 days after she notarized your mother's will. What was that for? Victor's face went from red to pale. That was a bonus. For her work. Her work as a receptionist? Or her work
finished
making
the
sure
report,
your mother's
just
will
checking
was
over the
notarized
details now.
despite questionable capacity? Your Honor. Reeves was on his feet. This is completely inappropriate. Dorothy pulled out another document. I also have here an affidavit from Dr. Patricia Sanders, Mrs. Chen's neurologist. She states unequivocally that based on her last examination of Mrs. Chen on March 8, 2025 to 1 week before the will was signed, her patient lacked the mental capacity to execute complex legal documents. Dr. Sanders notes that Mrs. Chen couldn't remember her own address, couldn't recall what year it was, and couldn't explain what a will was when asked. She handed the affidavit to the judge. "Finally," Dorothy said, "I have here the original will from 2010, notarized by Thomas Brennan, a respected estate attorney with no connection to either party. Written when Margaret Chen was healthy and clear-minded, this will represents what she actually wanted, what she and her husband decided together
I've finished the
when they were
report,
both
just
thinking
checking over
clearly
the
about their
details now.
children's futures." She turned to face the courtroom, looking at Victor with something like pity. "Mr. Chen, your sister gave up 3 years of her life to care for your mother. She spent every penny she had. She lost her career, her relationship, her future. And the only thing she's asking for is what's fair. What your mother actually wanted, 50-50. The same thing you would have gotten if you'd done the right thing." Victor's eyes were wet. For the first time, he looked at me directly. "I was angry," he said quietly. "When Mom got sick, I was angry that I couldn't fix it. Angry that you seemed to handle it so well. Angry that she looked at you with love but looked at me like a stranger. So I convinced myself you were taking advantage of her, that I needed to protect her from you, but really, I was just jealous." The courtroom was completely silent. "I'm sorry, Maya. I'm so sorry." Judge Morrison looked at the documents in front of her. "I'm setting aside the
I've finished the report,
2025
just
will on
checking
the
over the
grounds of
details
lack
now.
of testamentary capacity. The 2010 will is reinstated. Estate will be divided 50-50 as originally intended." She looked at Victor. "Mr. Chen, your fortunate Judge Park is not pressing charges for elder financial abuse. I suggest you take this as an opportunity to make amends with your sister rather than facing criminal prosecution." She banged her gavel. "We're adjourned." I sat frozen in my chair, unable to process what had just happened. Dorothy came around and put her hand on my shoulder. "Breathe, dear." I breathed. And then I started to cry. Not sad tears, relief. Release. 3 years of holding everything together, and finally, I could let go. Dorothy handed me a tissue. "You did beautifully. Your mother would be very proud." Victor stood by his table, Reeves packing up quickly and avoiding eye contact. My brother walked over to me slowly. "I meant what I said."
I've finished the
he told
report,
me.
just
"I'm
checking over
sorry.
the details
I
now."
was wrong. About everything." I looked at him. Saw the brother I'd grown up with buried under the stranger he'd become. "I don't know if we can fix this," I said honestly. "I know. But maybe we can try?" I didn't answer. I wasn't ready to forgive. Maybe I never would be. But I nodded, and he seemed to understand. After he left, Dorothy and I walked out of the courthouse together. The rain had stopped. The sun was trying to break through the clouds. "How did you do all that?" I asked. "The phone records, the bank records, the affidavit." Dorothy smiled. "I made a few calls during the recess. I have friends in useful places, and 30 years of knowing how to spot financial abuse. But you just met me this morning." I did. "And in that 10-minute bus ride, I learned everything I needed to know about your character. You gave up your seat without hesitation. You carried a stranger's groceries. You told me your
I've
story
finished
without
the report,
embellishment
just
or
checking over the
self-pity.
details now.
You loved your mother enough to sacrifice everything." She pulled out a business card. "I run the Elder Rights Alliance. We're always looking for nurses who understand elder care. People who've lived it, not just studied it. We advocate for people like your mother. We prevent people like your brother from taking advantage. The pay is good. Better than County General. And the work matters." I took the card, my hand shaking. "Are you offering me a job?" "I'm offering you a purpose. What you did for your mother, you could do for hundreds of others. Make sure they're protected. Make sure their wishes are honored. Make sure their children treat them with dignity." I looked at the card. At Dorothy. At the courthouse behind us. "When do I start?" She laughed. "How about Monday? That gives you the weekend to rest. You look like you could use it." We walked to the bus stop together. Before we parted ways, I asked her, "Why
I've
do you
finished
ride
the
the bus
report,
twice a
just
week?
checking over the
You could
details
afford
now."
a car service." "Because I need to remember who I'm fighting for," she said simply. The elderly woman with grocery bags, the young mother with 3 kids, the veteran who can't afford a car. These are the people who need advocates. If I rode in comfort, I might forget. The bus pulled up. Before she got on, I hugged her. "Thank you," I whispered, "for seeing me, for helping me, for everything. Thank you, Maya, for reminding me why this work matters." I watched the bus pull away, Dorothy's silver hair visible through the window. Then I started walking, not to my tiny apartment, to my mother's house, my house now, half of it, anyway. I stood on the front porch where I'd sat with Mom on good days, watching the sunset. I pulled out my keys, I'd never given them back, and opened the door. The house smelled like her, like lavender lotion and old books and home. I walked to her bedroom and found the photo album on her nightstand.
I've finished the report, just checking over the details now.
Opened it to a picture of me and Victor as kids, building sandcastles at the beach. Mom and Dad behind us, young and happy and whole. We'd been a family once. Maybe we could be again, maybe not. But I had time now to figure it out. I had my career back, my future back, my mother's legacy protected, and I had something else, a lesson that would stay with me forever. When you help someone without expecting anything in return, even a stranger on a bus, the universe has a way of sending help back to you in ways you could never imagine. I touched the business card in my pocket, felt the texture of the keys in my hand. Monday, I would start a new chapter, helping others the way Dorothy had helped me, the way I'd helped Mom. But today I would just sit in my mother's house and remember her, remember the good days, remember her smile, remember that love, real love, means sacrifice. And that sacrifice, in the end,
I've finished the
is
report,
never wasted.
just checking over the
Even
details
when it
now.
feels like you're losing everything, integrity and a sincere heart will always find their way back to you. Always. If this story touched your heart, please leave a like and let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Write the word present so I can see you. And remember, the kindness you show to others today might be exactly what they need to survive tomorrow. Thank you for listening to my story.